Hello, all my friends. Welcome back. We are in a new unit. So we're in Unit 10 now. So this is our first session of Unit 10. Meaning we have all new sorts of things. And like every week, we have a new activity page. So this is our activity page. It is talking all about the senses. So like what your eyes do, what your ears do, what your nose, fingers, all that kind of stuff. And then of course we have our coloring sheet on the back. That might be old news to you, but I still want you to do it. They're still fun. So with the new unit, as I said, we have a new big picture question. This one is good, just like last week's. It says, is there anything that is great, or is there, anything or anyone greater than God? Is there anyone or anything greater than God? The answer is a hard no. No, there's not, because God is greater than everything and everyone. God is greater than everything and everyone. That's not really news to us, but it's always good to remember that. So our new key passage is from Jeremiah 10:6. It says It says, there is none like you, O Lord. You are great, and your name is great in might. Jeremiah 10:6. Cool. That's our new one. Awesome. All right, we're going to go straight to our story. I like this story. It's a good one. I hope you like it too. It is Hannah and Samuel. So it starts in a country of Ephraim. A man named Elkanah lived with his wife Hannah. Now, Hannah was very sad because she didn't have any children, and that's really all she wanted. She wanted to be able to have a family. And every year, Elkanah went to the tabernacle to make sacrifices to God, and Hannah would go with him. When Hannah would go with him, they would separate, and he would do his thing, and she would do her thing, and her thing was praying to God. Now, she would pray to God and beg him for a family. So Hannah prayed to God and said, Lord, if you give me a son, I will dedicate him to you. He will serve you all of his life. And a priest named Eli was sitting near the doorpost of the tabernacle. Now, Eli wasn't listening to her prayer, but he did notice her and kind of looked at her and saw that she was praying. He saw her mouth moving. He didn't hear the words that she was saying, but he did see what she was doing. So he thought that there was something wrong with her, and he went up to her and was like, what's going on? Now, Hannah did have to explain herself, and she said, I've been pouring out my heart before the Lord. Now Eli replied, go in peace, may God answer your prayers. So Hannah and Elkanah returned home, and God did answer her prayers. So the way that God answered her prayers is that after some time, Hannah gave birth to her first son, and that's what she was praying for. Now she named him Samuel. When Samuel was no longer a baby, she brought him back to the tabernacle and brought him to Eli. And she said, God answered my prayers. She said, and Hannah pledged Samuel to serve God, and she worshiped him after that. She gave praise for him answering her prayers. Hannah returned home, but she left Samuel at the tabernacle with Eli to serve in the tabernacle, to serve God, like she promised. And every year, Hannah returned with a new robe because, like all children, Samuel grew up, and he got bigger and whatever, and so she would bring him new robes every single year for him to wear for the year. And God gave Hannah more children. He answered her prayers. Eli was getting old, and his sons served as priests in the tabernacle. Now Eli heard that his sons were being sinful towards God and sinning against him. So Eli asked his sons why they were sinning, and they didn't really give him an answer, and they continued to sin. They were living in sin. Now Samuel, on the other hand, grew older, like most children, and found favor with God and with men. So he was serving his life for God, just like his mother promised. And one night, Eli was in bed, and Samuel was in the tabernacle, lying in the tabernacle, and Samuel heard someone call his name, and they said, Samuel, Samuel. So he said, here I am. And he went up to Eli and said, here I am. I'm your servant. What do you need? And Eli was like, that wasn't me that called you. It might have been a dream, whatever. Go back to sleep. So Samuel went back, and then he heard it again. He heard his name 3 different times, going, Samuel, Samuel, Samuel. And every single time, he went up to Eli, and he's like, here I am, here I am. But it was never Eli that called him. And finally, Eli understood what was happening. It was God talking to Samuel. So Samuel went back to the place, and God called him once again. He said, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel, lying there, said, "Speak, for your servant is listening." So he is saying, I am your servant, God, and I am listening to you. I am here for you. And God told Samuel that he was going to judge Eli's family for their sin. So remember, Eli's sons were living in sin. So the next day, Samuel was afraid to tell Eli that. He didn't want to go up to Eli and tell him that his sons were about to be judged by God for their sinful lives. Now, of course, Eli asked Samuel what God had told him. And as Samuel grew, God was with him, and everyone in Israel knew that Samuel was God's messenger. God used Samuel to share his plan with the nation of Israel. Wow, that is amazing. We see in the beginning of the story a woman who is so faithful to God would get on her hands and knees and bow down before the Lord and pray and beg God. And she was faithful to God. She was one of God's people. And God answered her prayers. And in doing that, she worshiped him even more. And she sent her son to be a servant for the Lord. The one thing that she wanted was a son, and she gave that son to God. That is so amazing. And he did just that. He served the Lord his whole life. And he brought messages from God to the people of Israel. So amazing. I love that story. God is faithful, and God's people should be faithful as well. So I hope you enjoyed the story. If you have any questions, make sure to ask your parents or email us. Whatever you need, we are here for you. Can't wait to see you, and tune back in for our next one. Bye.